Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu, and I hope you're doing well. I'm not sure there's going to be a big universe for this particular video or this topic because frankly there aren't that many of you. So I had done a video on white belts, if I'm not mistaken. I know I did one on blue belts, what to expect or what to do when you're a blue belt, and I did one for purple belts. So today I'm going to do one on what to expect and what to do while you're a brown belt. Brown belt, it's a couple of people look at it different ways. Number one is a brown belt could be somebody who's technically proficient to the point where they're almost a black belt. I've heard old school masters, including Professor Dave, say that a brown belt basically is a black belt technically, but there's some maturity and maybe some refinement that needs to be in place, or even maybe some character issues that needs to be worked on before they become a black belt. Now, if you're a brown belt, just realize you've been doing this for so long. If you keep improving yourself, you will get your black belt. When I say improve yourself, I don't mean just your technique. I mean your person, right? A while ago, somebody had asked me what it takes to become a black belt, and I used RICKSON as an example. His thought was, when somebody had asked him, what does it take for the average person to become a black belt? His answer was, the average person never becomes a black belt. That's not to say that the average person cannot begin jiu-jitsu and eventually become a black belt, but by the time they become one, they are no longer an average person. I'm not saying it because I'm being cocky or anything. What I'm saying is that to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu takes so much discipline. It takes so much change in your lifestyle, in the way you do things. A black belt, for one thing, is in great physical shape. A black belt has made sacrifices in their lives to become, or in their life, to become a black belt. You know, you have to do what it takes. You have to do what it takes to set the time aside. You may have to, depending on your school and your situation, you may have had to spend significant amounts of money to be able to buy your lessons, you know, whether it be group classes or privates or whatever. You may have to make trips. You may have to spend money on seminars. But somebody who becomes a black belt has made a significant investment in both time and money to get to where they're at. And you change, right? So as a brown belt, just remember that you're just kind of refining what you've got technically and maybe personally. I don't know what your professor's criteria is for awarding a black belt. Some professors, most professors, will do it just based on technicality. Okay, you're this good, and I've seen you tap black belt, so therefore you're a black belt. That's their thinking. Others will say, I don't care how many black belts you tap, you're coming into class late, you're being disruptive, you know, you're talking on the side when I'm trying to teach, whatever. You know, maybe you're just undependable. And his thinking is, I'm not going to give you that black belt until you fix those flaws in your life. Let's just kind of go with a general video. So let me go to the board and let me kind of establish where we are in our belts. So first of all, white belt. That's a belt you don't have to earn. That's a belt you buy with your uniform. So now white belt, what is your goal for the white belts? The goal for the white belts is to learn your basics. Learn your mount escape. Learn your seatbelt escape. Learn your knee in the belly escape. Learn your cross-side escape. Learn your technical mount escape. Learn your guard pass, play guard, all that kind of stuff. Learn all the basics. However long it takes you, it really doesn't matter. Everybody's a little different. But that's the goal for white belt, so learn your basics. Now, blue, what are your goals for blue? You're going to continue your basics, but you're going to add in learning some additional techniques. So you're going to go back over the basics, you're going to refine your basics, get better at it than a white belt does it, but then you're going to add some new techniques. Instead of learning maybe 3 or 4 arm bars, 3 or 4 mount escapes, you'll now have an additional 3 arm bars, 3 mount escapes, as an example, right? So that's your blue belt. Now what about your purple or basics? Plus some additional techniques. Plus you're going to become proficient to the point where you become dangerous. Now, what does that mean? Purple belts are the ones that they've refined what techniques they have to a level where if a higher belt, say a brown belt or a black belt, gives them too much, it's over. They're gonna get it. So let's say I'm not playing aggressive enough to protect myself and I'm kind of lax in my defense because I'm thinking, it's purple belt, whatever. But you're not spot on with your technique as an upper belt. Well, guess what? The purple belt will exploit you. That's a sign of a purple belt. Blue belts don't really have that ability to exploit you yet. When you get to maybe the 4-stripe blue, then yes, they're starting to develop that. By the time they start exploiting you, if you give them a little too much, maybe you let them have the mount and you let them get a little bit far and boom, he starts taking stuff, that's a purple belt. All right, now that you've established that, now what are the things that are characteristic of a brown belt? Well, their basics, being that they've done basics all the way through, their basics are still solid, but yet they're not perfect. Your basics may be at a black belt level, maybe not. If not, you need to do this, okay? You're already dangerous, that's an assumption. But now, what you're focusing on is your game. You have in your blue and purple belts, you develop a repertoire. So you have a repertoire of techniques, of concepts and philosophies. You know all that, you're learning it, you're refining it. But now you're putting it all together. So when I say put it all together, let's say when you're in guard, you might use 3, 4, 5 different guard passes, just depends on your mood, right? But you don't really have a go-to set of techniques. You don't have a go-to guard pass. You don't have a go-to knee in the belly. You don't have a go-to mount. You don't have a go-to submission, right? The game is where you finish it off to where you know that I want to do this and this and this and this and this. So as an example, if you look at somebody like, say, Roger Gracie, right? What's his whole thing? His whole thing is to pass your guard, get to mount, choke you out. You know it's coming. That's his game. But he's refined it to such a high level, you can't stop it. Very few people will stop it. You have guys that will finish people off in guard. And they'll have every variation from the guard. They'll do the triangle, they'll work from the half guard to the knee bar to the ankle, but it all starts in the triangle. Example, Eddie Bravo, right? Eddie Bravo, rubber guard. That's what he starts with. So his assumption is he gets to the guard and he locks you down rubber guard. From there, he has all his set movements that he does. That's his game. Establish your game and perfect it. That's what you do during the brown belt time. Okay. A lot of people say, well, when they're blue belts, they say, well, I want to start working my game. You don't have a game, right? Your job is to learn everything. Learn all the need to know stuffs. The have to know, need to know, whatever you're going to call it, but learn it here. Don't favor anything yet. Over here, a purple belt, you're starting to get good at everything, but you don't really favor anything yet. Once you get to brown belt, that's when you figure, okay, where am I best, right? If I'm a big guy, I'm going to have my game doing this. If I'm a little guy, I'm going to have my game doing this. If I'm strong, I do this. If I'm weak, I do that. If I'm fast, I do this. If I'm slow, I do that. But that's where you start to develop your go-to techniques. And that's where, as far as your technicality point, that's where you're done. Now the next part is your personnel. Every black belt professor or master or grandmaster, they have a certain set of criteria that they require you to have in order for them to feel comfortable giving you their black belt and making you one of theirs. You've already gone this far. There's no reason why you won't get to the black belt, right? If you've done everything here, you're getting a black belt is inevitable. If your technical game is sound and you know that you can beat pretty much anybody you want, now you just have to look here. On the other hand, if your professor's already told you that, no, I mean, personally, I'll give it to you. You just need to refine this, all right? So it's easy. It's just one of these two that you would need to refine, assuming you have one already. If you don't, you got to work on both. But that's where we're at. I did a video on Relson Gracie and talked about how he didn't get his black belt at 18. He got it at 22. And there was no question about his game. Relson is one of the best to ever live. But there were some characteristics in his personality that Ellie wanted different. Now you can fast forward a little bit and you think about, what about Grandmaster Relson? Well, he did have a brown belt whose game was no joke. His jiu-jitsu was phenomenal, but he refused to give him the brown belt. Even Dave Kama, who knew this guy, says, yeah, his jiu-jitsu is no joke. It was excellent. So he had this part. but he didn't have the personal characteristics that Helson wanted. As a result, Helson never gave him the black belt. He had to go and shop himself around to other black belts to eventually get his black belt. He wasn't so arrogant as to just simply put one on himself. He did want to make sure somebody gave it to him, and somebody did give it to him. But yeah, I mean, that was one reason why this person, who should have been known as a Helson Gracie black belt, is not a Helson Gracie black belt. So another thing too, when people chase belts and they jump academies, go all over the place, they complain and they say, well, I'm a brown belt and I beat all their black belts there, but they still wonder, why am I not getting my black belt from the school owner or the head instructor there? It's because this takes time to develop. If I don't know you and you come in and you beat all my guys, am I going to give you a black belt? No. That's not to say I won't give you one, but I'm just not going to give it to you right now. I'm going to have to learn more about you and learn about you. And that's one of the reasons why people complain about how, I can beat various people in my school. I moved to another town and I'm a blue belt, but I beat all their purple belts, but my instructor won't give me my purple belt. It's not that he won't give it to you. He will at some point, but he needs to learn more about you before he gives you the belt, especially if you're one who moves a lot. If you're one who moves a lot, you can pretty much figure you're not going to get any belts from anybody. It's just a sad fact of it, is because, they need to evaluate you as a person, and especially for the black belt. In fact, the higher a belt you go, the more there is involved in the decision to give you that belt. That's really it. So as a brown belt, what do you expect? Well, make sure you have all this already set up, and then from there, work on that. So that's all I got for you. So for you brown belts, just keep plugging away, and happy training. Bye-bye now.